so we're back, and you can imagine what we're doing in this video because you've probably seen it in the title. We're going to paint the engine block, and we're going to make sure we mask everything up properly so that we don't get paint or dust anywhere we don't want to. We've still got to clean the cylinder head up for paint, and you just go over the block one more time as well. So we don't want to get dust anywhere we don't want it. This cam cover is old and is not being used, so I'm using this to seal up the top of the engine so we don't get anything in there. Obviously we need to mask everything off, and I'm going to show you a very easy way of cutting this all to shape for the manifold. Obviously the first thing you want to do is clean your surfaces, get it all degreased, make sure your tape is going to stick to it, and then you just want to go around the edges with a rubber mallet really gently. I mean, you don't have to be too gentle to be fair. Just go around it, give it all a good tap all around the edges, and we're using a rubber mallet because this will bend around the shapes ever so slightly, and it's also not going to damage the engine, of course. And what this is going to do is cut the tape. So I'm going to continue on doing this, and I'll show you the result when I'm done. Okay, so the hammer trick sort of worked. It got some of the edges off, but it really wasn't massively effective like I thought it was going to be. So I did end up going around the edges with a knife a little bit. As you can see, I've already got started a little bit on wire wheeling on this side. I need to turn it over now. I need to seal up some bits on the other side of the engine before I start the other side. I just got carried away. I was just trying to clean up the front here so that I could stick some tape to it, and then I just got carried away and carried on. So, right, yes, so let's get some tape on that front coolant water pump bit. Okay, so I got myself very involved and I've got it all prepped. I have just realised as well that the VHT paint that I've used on the timing cover isn't fully cured until it's been through a couple of heat cycles. So the brake cleaner has stripped it off, which is brilliant. So we're going to be repainting that as much as we can while we're here as well. Everything is blocked off. Every single hole that has threads has been had a bolt put in it just to try and stop any paint getting onto our threads. So yeah, the block is nice and clean and ready to be painted. Very exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so after all that painting and a couple of evenings, we have a black engine and it's all dry. I've just been out to the Spitfire out the front. I was going to record it, but I didn't think there was any point really, as it's a bit of a struggle. Managed to get all the bits off of it that I need for now. We've got the distributor, we've got the oil pressure switch, and we've got an oil pressure sensor. All come off the car, which were in good working condition when parked, so they might be effed now. To be fair, the relief valve was brand new and the distributor was pretty new when I put it on, and it's got an electro spark inside of it. Unfortunately, one of the wires broke off, so I've got to figure out where that connects to inside, but I'm sure I'll be absolutely fine. Right, we're going to get all of the tape off of this and start assembling now. Okay, so we've got all the tape off of the engine and it's looking very good. I think we did quite a good job masking it up, so I'm quite happy with that. I've had a little dive into why the Aqua Spark wire has fallen off, and unfortunately, as you can see in the bottom there, it's broken off flush against the module. I would attempt a wiring repair on this, but I don't think anything I do is going to be a very long-term solution, as they are very well sealed in there, and I don't think any repair I've done would be worthwhile, well, wouldn't last long enough. So I think a new one is in order. They're not massively expensive, they're about £40, but it's £40 more money than I wanted to spend. So that can go in the bin, which means the distributor I could fit tonight, but I've got the bracket in paint, so I'm not going to do that. I've only got about 10 minutes till I need to leave, so I'm just going to do some easy bits. I'm going to stick new spark plugs in, because I might as well. I'm not going to tighten them up yet. I'm just going to put them in the hole, so I can still turn the engine over freely. And then we're also going to fit our pressure valve and oil pressure sensor. And then I think that'll be it for tonight. So, like most of the stuff on that engine that's out there in the car, most of the stuff was new, just like this oil pressure sensor. Just make sure it's really clean going in. You don't want any debris or anything in there. Obviously, my failure was a very sudden thing, so I don't think there's any metal shavings in the oil at all. And to be fair, I have looked at the oil and it does look pretty clean. So I'm quite happy to reuse this, obviously giving it a very good clean first. That goes straight in there, and we basically just nip it up. Okay, so that's in, and once you get so far, you'll feel it start to nip up. I know it doesn't technically have an end, but once it nips up, that'll do. So we're now going to put our oil pressure switch in. Basically just regulates the oil pressure. Don't know where I put it. Oh, it's over here with all my spanners that I brought over from the car. So yes, as you can imagine, make sure it's clean. Don't want anything on this, no dirt at all. We're going to clean this little end up as well, I think. Might even put some paint on it, so I might do that another day. We'll see. Right, yeah. Next bit. Okay, so I thought I'd do the spark plug gaps on my spark plugs before installing them. They probably would be fine out of the box, but they could be better. So I'm going to be aiming for between 0.26 and 0.28 on my feeler gauges. I've got here, I've got 0.3, 0.28 and 0.26. Basically I want it to fit between these two, and this one I want to not fit. So as you can see, if I put my feeler gauge through here, I've already sort of gapped this one. That one doesn't go through, which is what we want. And then if we go over 0.28, it does go through. So I might just try and perfect this a little bit more and just give it a little bit more clear, close it up a little bit. And the way I do this, you obviously don't want to bash them. You don't want to hit them with a hammer. You don't want to drop them on the floor or anything like that. You just sort of find something solid and just sort of use your body weight to lean into it, just to push that diode in a little bit, or the diode, that little fork on there a little bit. And as you can see, that's my 0.26, so that's my smaller one, goes through lovely. And we're a little bit tighter on the other one. So I would say that is perfect now. We're exactly within the range where I want to be. So we're going to go and fit that. I'm going to go ahead and do this another 4 times. I've already done one. And then we'll get on to the next thing. Okay, so now all the spark plugs are gapped and in. I'm going to go ahead and fit our mount for our distributor. I've got to try and find the gasket. I've got a box of gaskets in here. I'm sure I have one, so I'm going to try and find that. I found my gasket out. It's quite a thick gasket. I've got to do a little bit of research, but I'm pretty sure that you have to have some sort of clearance set up with the distributor so that you're not just slamming it straight into the bottom there. So I will do a little bit of research and confirm that in a minute. But that might help explain why the gasket is so thick. Of course, it didn't fit even in the slightest. The holes are in the complete wrong place, so I've had to elongate the holes a little bit. I'm a little bit annoyed about, and I'm not too keen on how thin the gasket material is, so we're definitely going to use a little bit of well seal here, but there shouldn't be massive amount of oil pressure in this area, so shouldn't be a problem, but we will make sure we put some well seal on there to try and seal it up anyway. Yeah, so I'm going to stick some well seal on there, do some research, and then we'll fit our distributor. So we've got a little bit of assembly lube in the bottom there, just so when I turn it over, hopefully that gear will get nicely lubricated, and obviously our drive gear will be nicely lubricated. After that, I put some well seal around the mating surface, and then I put the gasket on, a little bit more well seal on top of the gasket. Then you need to put this little bit on. This is the mount for your distributor. This goes on like this. It only goes on one way. Try and put it on the other way, it won't fit. And it should fit in there nicely. Give it a little tap down into position. Obviously make sure your gasket does fit okay. Mine does now that I've modified it. Then we're going to put our bolts in and nip them up. Doesn't look very good, does it, that gasket? But I'm sure it'll be fine for usage. Okay, so this originally was studs, so I've put the studs back in. Put Loctite on the bottom of the studs. So hopefully when I take them off next time, because there'll probably be the next time, the studs don't come out and the nuts do, because that's what happened last time. So awesome, I'm quite happy with that. All we've got to do now is grab a distributor and plonk it in there, really. Oh, one last thing actually, we've got this little bracket. This little bracket goes on there. This is the bit that clamps your distributor. Pretty sure it goes on like that. I think I might have it that way around so the bolt's more accessible once it's in the engine bay. So yeah, we'll get that bolted down on there, and then the distributor can slide down into position, and we should be able to clamp it. We've got our little distributor bracket in, and I've left it loose so we can move it backwards and forwards. As you can see, the as you move it, it lines up and then doesn't. So once the distributor's in, that will put it all in line for us. So once the distributor is in, we'll then nip all these up. There is a little bit of a clearance, so you don't want the distributor butted right up against the gear, as I mentioned earlier. There is a little bit of a clearance, but just so long as it's not butted up against it will be enough. Okay, so we've got our distributor, and we're going to try and plonk it into position now. The end of these are a little bit magnetic, so just make sure you get it nice and clean. Any metal swarf will stick to it, and you certainly don't want that in your engine. And also this little rubber seal, certainly worth putting a little bit of engine oil on that before you go in, because this is going to need to be adjusted. And the last thing you want to do is have that seal stick and then make it difficult for your distributor to turn or even break the seal. So let's not do that. So this was take 2. What I didn't realise is that this was clamped up from the previous distributor that was fitted to it, and I needed to open it up a little bit. So once you've opened it up, that should just fall into place without any issues. So this isn't doing anything. What you basically need to do is rotate this centerpiece with a little bit of downwards force, not a lot, and eventually this should find its way home located. This engine is currently sat on the compression stroke at top dead center for cylinder 1 and 6. So in theory, this should end up pointing in this sort of direction. As you can see, it's just sort of plonked down a little bit there. We do need to keep working it, and I'm going to do that off camera, so I have 2 hands. You may notice something is missing, and that is my bracket. Turns out I have the wrong bracket for this distributor, which is very annoying. This is the bracket that come off of the other engine. It's the right bracket for the distributor, but it's the wrong bracket for the engine. So I modified it quite badly as a temporary measure years ago and fitted it and made it work. And it was a permanent measure in the end because I never actually changed it. Well, this is the bracket I've got, and you can see the hole, different size, massively different. So I have ordered the correct one. I'm not going to put this one on, and I'm not even going to put it on there as a temporary measure because I know I'll never change it. So I've plonked the distributor in the hole just for now, and we're going to crack on with doing sticking the rocker shaft in and doing all of our valve clearances. So let's crack on with that. This is my rocker shaft, and this is how I've been storing it, because I meticulously pulled this thing all apart, cleaned it up. And it took me hours and hours and hours and hours, and it is in a nice shape now. And I'll tell you what, I'd still like to replace it because the rockers do have a little bit of movement in them. So let's unwrap them. Here is our rocker shaft. It is in a very nice looking condition. There is a little bit up and down movement in these rockers, which might make a little bit of a rattling, which, you know, I'm not 100% keen on, but I don't really have the funds to replace this now. So we are just going to use it as it is, and then maybe later on down the line we'll get some bearinged ones or something. But this will do the job. We're just going to go plonk these on the engine now. I've plonked our rocker shaft into position. I've made it so that all of these tappets are making contact with the push rods, because obviously we don't want them to slip out of position. The one thing we are going to do here, which you should definitely do, is we need to make sure we tighten all these bolts down very evenly. The last thing we want to do is tighten it down in one place, because these valves are going to be pushing, or the valve spring is going to be pushing against this shaft. And if you're just tightening it down in one place, and let's say you've got force pushing upwards, you're going to bend the shaft. So you want to just evenly tighten them down. You could put this in a position where all of the valves are sort of halfway, and then you've got less strain on everything. But if you do it correctly, it's not going to cause any issues. So we're just going to tighten these evenly, slowly, until we eventually get them snugged up, and then we're going to torque these bolts at the top up. Of course, these bolts, we're using the original bolts, nuts, sorry, and we've got washers as well, which would have originally been on there. So that's all we've got to do. There are oil ways that travel up through these pedestals. You don't need any gasket. The machine surfaces are enough. If you put a gasket, if you put sealer in there, there's a chance that you might block the hole up, and you really don't want to do that. So yeah, factory specification is that you don't put anything on there. So we're just going to put them together as it would have been. Okay, so we're going to be doing the valve clearances now, and I thought I'd just do a quick little bit on this. We're going to be using a method called on the rock. It's very straightforward once you get your head around it. So at the minute, I have cylinder 1 on the rock. What does on the rock mean? Well, basically, it means when the two push rods, or the camshaft, is just between going from the exhaust to the compression stroke. So if I rotate this engine backwards slightly, you'll see this one moves, this one doesn't. If I go forwards, we get to the top, and then this valve, moving the same direction, starts to go down. So on the rock is the point where both of those are stuck at their highest point, or sorry, at the lowest point. Now, what do we do when we adjust it? Well, we don't adjust these ones. These ones are on the rock, so we don't need to touch those. We actually go to the opposite end. We need to adjust cylinder 6. When we're going along all of our other ones, we actually, we're basically just doing the opposite one to whichever one is on the rock. So if 1's on the rock, you adjust 6. If 2's on the rock, you adjust 5. If 3's on the rock, you adjust 4. 4, then 3, 5, then 2, and then 6, then 1. So you're always adjusting the opposite one to which is on the rock. Because I have a performance camshaft, on my cam card it actually specifies a different value to what the factory specifications are. Slightly bigger than the factory specifications. The intake on mine has to be set at 0.014 and the exhaust is at 0.016. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head over to this side of the engine and we're going to adjust our valve clearances. Okay, so I'm now in a position to do my valve adjustments. And what tools do you need? Well, you just need a flathead screwdriver and a 1/2 inch, I'm pretty sure this is, spanner, and obviously your gauges. I've got mine set at 0.14 and 0.16, which are the two specifications that we are going to need. Which valve is the correct one? Which one's intake and which one's exhaust? Well, it can be quite daunting sometimes, and honestly, the easiest way to tell is by the ports on the front of the engine. You could hold a manifold up to it and just decide which one's which, but I'm going to tell you the circle one, which one here is the intake, and the square one here is the exhaust. So I'm going to start with the exhaust valve, and my exhaust should be set at 0.16. So I've got quite a lot of movement there. So I'm going to take the movement down until we make contact, and I'm going to back it off a little bit. And then I'm going to try me 0.16 gauge in there. So it doesn't go through, so we are too tight. Back it off a little bit. I'm just going to put my spanner down on top of my distributor there. I'm going to go for 0.16 again. See, that is now way too loose. So you can move that around in there. So we just need to nip that up until we feel a nice... You don't want it... It's all about feel doing this sort of thing. And you need to make it feel like it's grabbing a little bit. Not too tight, not too loose is the way to explain it, I think, really. But you've got a nice little grab, but it's not trying to stop it from going through. I mean, that, I would say, is pretty perfect. So I would quite happily leave it there. So, now we need to do our nut up. And the problem is, when you do the nut up, you're likely to move this slightly. So you definitely need to check it again after you've done your nut up. So, I'm going to try and hold this as still as I can. And then nip it up. Like that. And then we'll just recheck it again. So it does feel quite good, to be honest. I might want to go a smidgy bit tighter. So I'm just going to... How tight is it? Yeah, it's quite tight. Just back it off slightly. Turn that slightly. So I think we might have... Yeah, we've way tightened that up. So it's a game going back and forth until we get to somewhere where we're happy with. Okay, so I'm now happy with our valve clearance that I've got on this one. It's not very easy to me to show you this on the camera because it's mainly done through feel, but if I'm just very quiet, you might hear it. Just sort of pops out a little bit as you pull it out. It's a nice grab as you're going through, and then as it comes out, you just feel it bump, and it just pops out very nicely. That's about where you want it. Okay, so it took me a while just to get it where I wanted it, but I am there now, 100% there. I did revisit it, and it's a nice grab as you're going through, and you just feel it pop out the other side. So now we're going to do the intake side. We've got loads of movement in there, so we're going to nip this down again. I'm not going to go through the whole lot because it would take forever on the video, but we will go through these bits. So, absolutely no movement in that whatsoever now, so let's back that off a little bit. Probably a little bit more than that. So, we now need to set this one to 0.14. And I like to set them so they're all sort of the same sort of feel. So, I'm just going to loosen that off again, a smidgy bit tighter. I really don't need to go by a lot. So that is a really nice grab now, actually. Very pleased with that. That is nice. And then obviously checking this one again. Yeah, that goes through there. Lovely. So yeah, 0.14 for our intake. That, I would say, is perfect. So we'll leave that there. We'll just nip that up. Okay, it's very difficult to spot them when you've got so much going on in front of you. It's very difficult to spot which one is on the rock. So the next one that I've found are these two here, which would be cylinder 3. I don't know if that is the order that they would go on the rock, but this is the order that I found them in. So we're just going to keep going until we see that one stop, and then that one starts to go down. So we're just going to back it off a little bit. Now, the gaps on these are quite big because I've not adjusted them yet. So what I have been doing to get very, very close to the specific on the rock is just nipping these up ever so slightly, just so we're making contact, and then we can see it go on the rock a lot clearer. So you definitely don't want these to be loose, because they immediately go down. Like, there's no downtime. When one's up, the other one is going down. So that has just gone on the rock there, and it's stopped. There you go. So we've got cylinder 3. We need to do cylinder 5, I think. No, sorry, cylinder 4. Jesus Christ, my maths is not very good tonight. It is late. So yeah, cylinder 4 opposite, it's literally next to it. So it's these two here. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. It's the same process as before, so I'm not gonna record it. You know what I did on this one, so we're gonna do the same here. Okay, so again, I've done my valve clearances. I'm just making sure that I stay on the correct one. So I'm just doing like this. I'm going 1, 2, 3. That's the one that I had on the rock. And then 4. So I know that these are the two that I was adjusting. I've now got them all tightened up, lovely. Then I've got to remember that my exhaust is, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaust, I believe, is this one. Yes, it is. And I'm having that as 0.16. And I can put that through there now. And feel there's a nice little bit of resistance. And then switching it over to my 0.14 for my intake, which is next to it. Again, a nice bit of resistance. It's all tight and perfect. Very happy with that. So now we need to find it on the rock on another cylinder. I've got this little bit of paper. I'm just keeping tally of everything that I'm doing. So number 1 and 6 I ticked off, and then now I've done 3 and 4, I'm then going to tick them ones off as well. Then as we go through them all, I'll make sure that we get all of them, and once we're done, we'll have all of them ticked off. So yeah, it's as simple as that. We're going to keep going, and hopefully we'll be finished in a minute. Of course, one of the things that you need to make sure 100% is correct is that these push rods are seated into the bottom of your rockers nicely. If they're in there, then they probably are seated absolutely fine. But before you put the rocker shaft on and all that, you need to make sure everything's clean. Any dirt or anything that's on that ball joint or within that cup could cause your clearances to be out. And with the engine running, if it's a bit of dirt and it wears down and disappears over time, your clearances will be out. So just make sure everything is clean when it goes together. It is very, very important. I'm going to turn the engine over now and get it on the rock for another cylinder and continue doing my clearances. Okay, so I was just doing the valve clearances, as you know, and I noticed something that worried me for a split second, but it turns out it's completely normal, and I just wanted to explain it. So you are currently looking at these two, where my fingers are. This is cylinder 4. I've just found that these are on the rock, and I will be about to adjust cylinder 3, which is this one. So it's the complete opposite one to the one I just did. This one is set correctly, right? I'm just going to rotate the engine backwards. Right? We're going to go forwards now, and watch this valve and watch this valve. This one is going to be closing, and this one is going to open before, or begin to open before this one is fully closed. So turn it, that starts to open just before this is closed. This is called valve overlap, and It is not an issue. This is exactly what you do want to see. Once everything has been set correctly, this is absolutely fine and normal. So if you see this, don't stress about it. While we're in that range of it overlapping, this cylinder is going to, or this part of the camshaft on cylinder 3, which is over here, which you can't see, is going to be right at its bottom point, and it's going to be at its bottom point for a while. So while it's in the overlap stage, you'll be able to adjust cylinder 3 valves. So yeah, if you see that, don't stress about it. That is normal. It might not be as prominent on a standard camshaft. I've not done this on a standard I've not done valve clearances on a standard camshaft on one of these engines before, so this might not be as prominent on a standard cam, but on this Newman cam it certainly is, and you can see it quite clearly, which I thought was quite interesting, so I thought I'd share that. So I'm going to continue now and finish my valve clearances, hopefully. Okay, so I'm down to the last cylinder, and I'm just going to go through the process one last time for anyone who might be a little bit confused or just fancy listening to me talk, or even listening to my brain work, because it doesn't do it very often, and this does kind of confuffle me a little bit, but we are getting there. I have cylinder 6 on the rock, which means cylinder 1 is the one that's going to be getting adjusted now. So the one we started with being on the rock is the one we're going to end on. What I've been doing is I've been figuring out which one's which. So I'm going to start with my intake port, and my intake is 0.14. So I'm going to get my feeler gauge to 0.14. I'm going to put it in the hole. Then I'm going to do this up until it gets snug. That's a bit too tight. Back it off a little bit. Then I'm going to bring my nut all the way down. All the way down to the bottom, because we're going to want to tighten it up, and we're not going to want to do that with a spanner. So let's get it done now. So feeler gauge feels good bit of resistance in there. Quite happy with that. We're going to get our spanner, we're going to hold it as firmly as we can with a screwdriver. It has turned, which is annoying, but it feels quite good still. Possibly on the tighter side, possibly want to just back that off a little bit. So I come up with a little contraption to stop me from, put on a ratchet so that it doesn't move, and get a little bit more grab on it. Using a screwdriver is a pain. So just put a little bit of backwards force on it as I'm tightening this up. Like that. Then we'll have a feel of it. See, now I feel like that is too loose. And this is basically the process that I've been going through to get where we are. Might not even put this segment in the video because it is very long. So I'm quite happy with that now. So what we want to do is want to support it like that. Do it up. There you go. And then we'll have a feel. Oh, that does feel good. Quite happy with that. So I'm just going to recheck my sheet. We've got the intake side, which is 0.014. That is the gauge that I have there, and I have got it fitting lovely in there. And that is nice and tight now. Just going to do a proof check to make sure it's tight. Yep, happy with that. And then I'm going to proof check to make sure that that slides through there lovely, which it does. I do apologise for the engine moving. Probably looks awful on camera, but the stand isn't the best. I'm actually worried about it breaking, to be fair, because this engine is so heavy. We are now going to do the exhaust port, and checking my sheet, the exhaust port is 0.016. So we're going to start where we did before, making sure everything's in position. We're going to do it up until we feel it grab, so I can't move it now, so it's obviously too tight. Back it off a little bit, a little bit too loose now. About there is where I want it. Get me nut all the way down to the bottom so that I can tighten it up. Just recheck to make sure nothing's moved. Quite happy with that. Get me fancy stuck together with sticky tape tool. Have a feel. honestly, that does feel decent. Quite happy with that. So I'm just going to recheck my specs. Exhaust 0.16. We are on exhaust. I can see that from the hole on the side of the block for the manifold. I can see that I have 0.16 on my feeler gauge, so I know it's the right one. And that goes through there lovely. So I'm now just going to make sure this is tight, which it is. And we are done. Every single one of our valves clearances has been done, which means this engine will run mint, hopefully. Hopefully the used old rocker shaft isn't going to rattle too much. I hope it doesn't. If it does, I have a spare one over there which has no movement in any of them, which I've just taken off the other engine, which is a 2 litre rather than 2.5, but I'm pretty sure these are the same. I would have used that, but I just can't see this go to waste. I'd like to give it a go first. If it's not too rattly, we are definitely going to run it. Cool, so the next job, realistically, thought I'd take you off the stand. Realistically, the next job for us is to put the cam cover on. We need to stick some oil on the rocker shaft, just to try and pre-lube it a little bit for its first start. I'm not going to use engine assembly lube, I'm just going to use some oil. I'm not going to go mad with it either because I don't want oil coming out of the bottom because we don't have a sump in it just yet. Probably do that before the first start, actually. I'm not going to do that now. We need to turn the engine over upside down, which is going to be fun on this stand and with this engine of this weight, and put the oil pump in. But first, I might put the rocker shaft on. I might put the carburetors back on just to have a look, see what they look like, because I want to know what it's going to look like finished. So this is obviously quite a long video, but we are going to end it in the same fashion that we started it. We're not going to not finish the job we started it with, so we're going to go back to the distributor now that we've done all of the valve clearances. As you can see, my Aqua Spark is no longer fitted. I took it out and I ordered a new one. These turn up very quickly off of eBay, so I'm very impressed that this turned up as quickly as it did. We're just going to get it fitted. It's a very simple install, so let's get it out of the box. Okay, so we've got it out of the box. This is our new one, and this is our old one. You can see the base plates that they are fitted to are different, so I'm just going to switch the base plates over. I've obviously ordered one for a Triumph 2500 engine, which must obviously use a different distributor to what I've got here. I'm pretty sure this is the distributor that come off of my 1.5 litre, so it makes completely sense that it would be different. So I'm going to move the base plates over and we'll continue from there. Now that I've changed the base plates over, this will now fit my distributor, which is great. Just remember, if you ever do have to do this, or your one doesn't come supplied with a base plate, you're supposed to put this lubricant paste on the bottom of it. As you can see on here, there's plenty of it that was on the old one. I've still got plenty of it on there, so I've not topped it up. It's just to help disperse the heat. If it comes supplied with a base plate, you don't have to take it apart or put anything on there, so it should all be there all okay already. So now we're going to plonk it into our distributor, and this is where things get a little bit tricky because my wiring won't fit through the hole, I don't think. So let's try and plonk them through that little hole, and if they don't fit, you're going to have to get creative. My wiring did not fit through my hole, so I've cut my ends off, and this is the point I'm at now. Just make sure you leave that in before you fit all of this, because you're going to want to make a good seal, so you don't get weather going in there. This little screw comes out, if you've got it in there still. I have, because I didn't want to lose it when I had everything else apart. So that literally plonks down in there, and we stick the screw in. I'm going to do that now. Once you've got it all bolted down, it's quite literally as simple as plonking your cap back on, and it's trying to turn. So it's not as simple as that because it wants to turn. So I'll do that with two hands. It's completely back on and seated. It is installed, and that is it. Yeah. Basically what we've got to do now is refit our wiring. I've got some solder joint connectors over here which I'm going to use. Just a bit of heat on them, a little bit of heat shrink, and they'll look nice and tidy. Like that, it is completely installed. We've repaired our wiring. We'll put this little harness bit on there. This does not stay like this. This has only been put like this so I don't lose it. You're going to want to cut the additional wire in half, and then that way you can use it for both sides. Or if you'd rather remake it again and have one wire black so that you know exactly what goes where, you can. But I'll probably just use this as it's very simple, and you know which one's which, because let's be honest, spade connector, bullet connector, they can only go one way round. So I can plonk this back on the car now, and we are going to quickly go over knowing how to put your distributor in the correct position, which I can do now, but unfortunately I can't set mine in stone forever because I haven't got the little bracket that we talked about earlier that attaches it to my base plate. So we're going to plonk it in and we're going to find the correct position now. Okay, so we are back. We've taken a little bit of break away from doing the Triumph engine due to a track day that I had to, well, didn't have to attend. I wanted to attend my Fiesta. That has now been done, and we are back on the Triumph engine. It's been a couple of weeks. For you, it's been a couple of seconds. We're going to set the ignition timing, roughly. I mean, we are going to obviously fine tune it once the engine is running, and we'll use the timing lights to make sure we can get that all spot on. But we need to get it at a baseline position so that it will run. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to take the cap off our distributor, which I've done. I'm sure you can see that. I remember in the last clip I said we didn't have this little bracket to hold the distributor in. Well, we do have that now, so the distributor is in and fitted. Obviously we can twist it still because I haven't done that bit up. So what we need to do is get cylinder 1 at top dead center on the compression stroke to set this. There is a very easy way of telling how it's on the compression stroke, and that'll be when the cam lobe is doing absolutely nothing on cylinder 1, so that's its lowest point. Another really easy way of telling is looking at cylinder 6. You'll find that the rockers are on the rock, so they're just changing between the two valves being operated. So yeah, there are your two ways of knowing. If I was to turn the engine forward and backward, you'd see these ones rocking like this, and these ones doing next to nothing. Well, they'll be doing nothing for a little while until they started moving. What we are going to do, right, now that we are confident that we are at top dead center on the compression stroke, we now need to set the positioning of our timing. We have to go 10 degrees before top dead center. So I'm going to go backwards with the engine. We're going to go to 8, see 12 there. So if we go back to there, we are at 10 degrees before top dead center is where we want to put it. Now, where this has now landed, obviously you want to make sure it's all in position nicely, it's located in its gear. This is where cylinder 1 is going to come out. I think I mentioned earlier about fitting your gear right in the bottom here in a certain position so that cylinder 1 would point this way. Well, I didn't get it quite right. It's slightly off, so my cylinder 1 is going to be out here. But if you want to make it look as neat as possible, you can take that little gear out the bottom. I'll be honest, I can't be arsed fighting with the well seal that's in the bottom there. It is so sticky, that stuff, and I really don't want to take that gasket out again just to try and move it. Not only that, I put a load of assembly lube all over the gear right on the bottom here, so I don't really want oil and mess everywhere, and it's not going to bother me too much. So this is where our cylinder 1 is going to come out. I need to put my cap on now. So one thing I am going to do before I do that is I'm just going to do all my spark plugs up. I left them all in loose so it was easy to turn the engine over, but we need to make sure these are tight now because in a minute we're going to be putting HT leads on and you don't want the spark plugs to not be tight. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now that I've put all my spark plugs in, the next question you really want to ask yourself is whereabouts do you want to set the distributor position? Realistically, if you were to put it there, you'd have the maximum amount of adjustment, but we shouldn't need that much adjustment as we're doing this little procedure. So I'm hoping to sit it off to the side a little bit to try and make it look a little bit cleaner. So we're going to go probably for about there. I'm only going to nip it up at this point because I just don't want it to move. Once we get the distributor cap on, we can decide where we want to put it, which is just here. Obviously we want this arm pointing in the direction of one of these, which it sort of is. We need to make some slight adjustments. You've gone back to being handheld, so I can show you. So our arm is located up to this hole here, which I believe is pretty close. Definitely close enough for it to run, I would say. As you can see, we possibly could turn slightly more clockwise, which I might do. But the idea is to get that arm in line with one of these, and then that one will be your cylinder 1, and then you've just got to just follow the firing order of the engine to fit the rest of them. Okay, so I adjusted it a little bit more clockwise, and now we're in a position where I'm a lot more happier with it than I was before. So that should be our firing position to get the thing running in the first place. It's all nipped up now, so it isn't going to turn, which is nice. We just got to clip these on and then stick our HT leads on, and technically the ignition side of everything is done, and the cover can actually go on as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put the leads on. Okay, so I have my HT leads. I spent ages looking for these. Turns out I was looking for a box and I should have been looking for a bag, and they're on the shelf behind me. So I found them. That's great. These are the HT leads that I'm going to be using. These are provided by a company called Mr. Retro Leads Limited. I've never bought leads from these people before, but they do appear to be very nice quality, and doing a little bit of reading up on what I'm going to need, these are going to fit the bill absolutely perfectly. It's certainly worth giving those a go. And that is a card that I got from them. Looks like an MX-5 engine. So yeah, very, very cool. I'm very excited to get these on. They do look very nice as well. I had to opt for the black because we need to make them look like they fit in nicely. So let's fit these. We've got to remember the direction that our distributor will turn is anti-clockwise, so that's how we want to put our leads on. I am going to quickly turn it. So the direction this engine would turn is this way, and as I turn it that way, you can see the distributor goes backwards, which means we need to set our firing order so that we do one down here where this little doodah was, and then go backwards. Before I moved the engine, I made sure to label my cap, just so that can be wherever it wants to be. I don't really care now. We know where everything's supposed to be. So we can clip that on, and we know 100% that is going to be cylinder 1. I'm going to go and stick these leads on now. If you are wondering what the firing order of these engines are, it goes 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. So obviously starting here, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4, back to 1 again. And that's how I'm going to stick my leads on right now. Okay, so our leads are on. Admittedly, it's a bit of a mess. They are a little bit longer than they probably need to be, but that could obviously be down to the positioning of my distributor. I could have located that so that number 1 was over here. That might have sorted out this mess a little bit, but overall they are a little bit long, but they are going to do the job absolutely fine. I've sent me lead to get the power in over this way, because on the Spitfire the ignition coil is on the bulkhead. If this lead is not quite long enough, which is debatable, I can always relocate it onto the side of the block, which is where they were on these engines, I believe. So yeah, that is the ignition system done. I'm very pleased with the progress that we are making, and I'm probably going to end that video here. When I say probably, I am going to end that video here. It's got way too long. We've done quite a lot in this video, but we have got all of the jobs that we set out to do done. This probably could have been 2 videos, but rather than just splitting it up down the middle or whatever, I just thought let's get all of it done and get it all out there. So we are now in a position where we need to think about putting the water pump on and putting the thermostat in there. We also need to turn the engine upside down, put the oil pump in. Admittedly, it's something that I should have done a long time ago, but I'm hoping not to turn it upside down many times, and I've got to take the engine out the Triumph to get the sump off of it, because I need that sump, being a GT6 sump. And I've got a saloon sump down there, which is not going to fit between my chassis. So I have actually made quite a start on taking the Spitfire apart. As you can see, I've got bits of Triumph laying around everywhere. I've got the old Stromberg CD150s down there. I've got bits of car absolutely everywhere, including my radiator and the bonnet. All I've got to do now, realistically, to get the engine out, to undo the engine mounts and pull the thing out. The only problem is I'm struggling a little bit for space in here, so I've been trying to put that off as long as I possibly could. But we are now at the point where we do really have to take that engine out so that we can do any more work. It's going to get the water pump bit sorted, and then I think it's going to be time to take it out. Or realistically, my next available Saturday, where I've got a little bit extra time rather than doing it after work, we can pull it all out and get started on taking that sump off, and hopefully making a dry sump would be quite nice. I'd want this engine to be as bulletproof as possible, and making sure that we don't have oil sloshing around and oil starvation to ruin our brand new bearings, because I do like a fruitful drive, that it all stays in one piece and doesn't have oil starvation. So with all of that said, please do like and subscribe. I do appreciate all of the feedback and all the comments, and if you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing for future videos. Hopefully we'll have this back on the road by the summer. Cool, well, I'll see you in the next one.